Hey everyone, Puneet here. Welcome to episode 12 of the North of Patient podcast, Conversations on Health Beyond Care. Today's guest is Daniella Schuarts, a nutritionist turned visionary storyteller and one half of the Brazilian creative duo Yuca. Daniella's work draws from a life lived adventurously, shaped by travels to the furthest corners of the globe and a passion for the visual arts. Whether through live action, animation, or photography, her storytelling is fresh, evocative, and deeply rooted in themes of social engagement, culture, and human experience. In this episode, we'll actually get to showcase one of her recent projects, one called Impossible Journey, a short film that explores racial inequality in the healthcare system of the United States through metaphorical storytelling. Our conversation also involves Danielle sharing her thoughts on AI's growing role in storytelling and filmmaking in general. For her, AI is both a tool and a challenge, a way to expand creative possibilities while also asking questions about authenticity, emotion, and human agency in the art of storytelling. Through Danielle's lens, we'll also explore how creativity can inspire not just art, but new ways of thinking about the narratives that shape our health. The links to the full episode can be found in the comments below. North the Patient is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Substack. Make sure to subscribe on Substack and follow along. As always, I welcome comments and ideas as well as suggestions for future guests. Without further ado, here is episode 12 with Daniella Schwartz. Maybe to start off, do you know anything about the pictures behind you?
During pandemic, we had like this crisis on audiovisual section, no money and no productions and everybody was at home. There was like this sale of pictures, really nice and expensive photographers and so. And then people started to make this campaign to sell their pictures for fundraising.
Very cool. So,
Yeah.
you are in a production studio right now then.
Yeah, I am the youth company where I work as a film director. So and it's pretty nice because the guns are kind of directing
Wait,
the.
yeah, you're on the spot. So, tell me a little bit about your kind of interesting journey with respect to working quite directly in healthcare to work outside of it. And I'm really excited because we are going to be hopefully being able to show one of your pieces of works, Impossible Journey, which is a fantastic short film. But in order to be able to get context, do you want to talk a little bit about your life leading up to where you are now?
I am a nutritionist till today. I have my all my how do I say it? Like my papers,
Your life,
official paper,
sure.
my license and everything. I have it. I don't use it.
But do friends and family still go to you for health and nutrition related questions?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
because it becomes who you are as well. So. But I started as a nutritionist, and when I went to grad school and nutrition and studied, I really liked to study it, and I really liked these nutrients and this kind of biological stuff, biochemical stuff. I always wanted to know more about it, but when I went to the grad school and university, I understood that what I really liked was related more to people, you know and I started to become more interested by the sociology and anthropological and the politics involved around the food, around people, around all the nutrition area, right? So during my graduation, I did like some projects where I was in traditional communities, when I went to talk to farmers and give them like develop projects related to the university. I was in public hospitals and I started to understand how it works. And today I see my profession that you're making a diet for someone, for a patient. Okay, it's really balanced and everything, but do you know if this patient likes it? It makes sense for the patient, he can afford it.
Yeah.
So I started to make this kind of questions, and when we go deep to it, you start to like all the
Yeah.
things around it that are related.
That's hugely relatable. So, in my own background as a family physician, probably one of the things that frustrated me the most, and the reason why I kind of segued from exclusively practicing family medicine to trying to build tools to make things better is the challenge you feel where you feel like your hands are tied. You have these tools, but there's no ability to be able to translate change in people's lives because it doesn't make sense because they're dealing with basic things, right?
Exactly.
And that dissonance between the practice of healthcare and the practice of healthcare professionals and the lives of real people, I think is a really interesting thing. It's unfortunate, but also cool to see how that theme is really the same whether you're in Canada or Brazil, right? I think the challenges are the same.
Of course, it's important, this theoretical part, and we really need to understand everything related to the body and so. But when you go to the practice, you need to understand human beings. We're talking about people here. We are talking about people that have their lives, their context, and there's no real connection. They don't ask too much about you, and they don't ask lots of questions that for me would be like super important for them to know about my case and understand how to take care of me.
It's such a different reality compared to how things, supposedly were back in the day when, people had, let's say in the context of doctors, you had your town doctor who would know everyone in the town, and he would know what's going on with each family, and he'd come to your home and do whatever, right? Now, obviously, as we've sort of industrialized the processes, we've lost that connection between the fact that health is not something that purely comes through a prescription or like a 5-minute interaction. And I personally think that's one of the reasons why we see so many people who work in healthcare who either burn out or become disenfranchised and realize that they really need to do something else in order to get the impact that they wanted to have.
Yes, exactly. I think I was practicing nutrition, I was graduated, and I was like kind of happy, kind of trying to find myself on this sociological, anthropological way of work. In the meantime, I've met Leo, which is today my husband and my partner in crime and my directing duo and everything. He is a photographer. He started to show me how these things were connected with what really liked to do in nutrition. So we decided to do and to develop a project together, like making art and photographing with this culture and anthropological and sociological side of food and nutrition and, relating to people and portraying this. So we stay like a bit more than a year traveling, and we went first to South Africa, and then we went to Zimbabwe, and we went to Zambia, and we went to Tanzania, and we went to Kenya, and
How
then
did you know where you were going? Like what led you from one place to the other?
people.
Oh, okay.
We just had like our flight, one-way flight, and then we decided to start by doing volunteering work to have like a place to stay and a food and a shelter and so. And then we started to meet people and understand where we could go. And then we found like ways. I mean, it's a long, long story. I'm not able to say everything here because it was an intense year. Our goal was to live with these people for a while and portray their connection with food.
So even on this journey, the specific goal was relating to photography around food and nutrition, but probably in different cultures and different places. Is that the idea?
We went to this village in Zambia, the Goba people, which was like the first time ever some foreigner came there, to sleep. And we stayed there for 2 months. So we could understand how they grow the food, how they prepare, how they share the food. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the maize there, all about corn. So it's a society based on the growing of one crop. And it was truly amazing because, of course, you're talking about food, but you're talking about culture, you're talking about dancing, you're talking about lots of other relationships. So Our goal was to portray and live, of course, and write about it. When we came back to Brazil, I was like, okay, there's no way for me to be a nutritionist anymore. I kind of found my way there.
How many years had you practiced up until that point?
Two?
Okay, so this is pretty early on that you realized that, things weren't working out. Like you wanted to broaden your calling.
Yes, yes. I started to photograph and understand how to film. So today we are film directors. We are a duo known as Yuca, and Yuca is like how can I translate it? It's cassava
Yeah.
in English. Yes,
Yeah.
it's how we call it in the indigenous languages.
And just for clarification as well, so you're based in Curitiba, which is in the south of Brazil.
We are represented and work in the Youth Company, which is a production company based in Curitiba.
Yeah.
Of course, we have clients from around the globe, so we started to be in touch randomly, without any plans. But we started to realize and to connect with some healthcare productions. And that's how today I see working with this healthcare communication and producing for healthcare companies and clients. I see today that everything is like super connected, because when I started to film direct, I said, oh my God, I mean, I was a nutritionist and today what I do has nothing to do with it. But at the end, I today can super connect and understand how it all came together, and how it make parts of my work today.
And how did that connection first happen between like these potential healthcare organizations that wanted to work with you? Like, did you reach out to them? Did they hear about you? How did that take place?
I think was like kind of natural commercial connections. It wasn't like, oh, I need to make it happen related to healthcare. It was supernatural. Wasn't a plan.
Gotcha. And for clarification, the youth is a production company in Curitiba, and that was where you, like, I guess, first began to kind of experiment with the idea of filmmaking and kind of got connected to this work.
No, no, I wasn't. I had my own production company before.
Before that, okay.
Before we joined the youth company, we were in a different area because today we work like commercially with kind of great brands and in this publicity world,
Yeah.
And but before we were more in this documentary area,
Mhm.
and we made like lots of other documentaries, in Amazon, in with indigenous villages here in Brazil. We talked about even related with health. We made commission the documentary about indigenous kids
Mhm.
and how is the impact of their new way of living, because we as a society are destroying their way of living, and how it impacts their mental health, and how it grows significantly the suicide taxes between kids in indigenous villages. So we made this documentary about it, and we went to Amazon to,
What was the name of that documentary?
it's about the Guarani Kaiowá villages, and it's not online anymore because for political issues and legal issues.
Fair enough.
That's why I'm not able to tell you the title, but I think it's nice just to tell about it as well, because even after I decided to go to this film production life, we were keep going into this health, and everything is related, that's what
Yeah,
I mean.
like social determinants of health.
Yeah, super, yes. And then we developed like this kind of documentary side of work. And after a few years, we connected with our friends, and then we started in the youth direct here with this commercial side, but also still doing lots of projects related with what we always wanted to bring, our signature, I can say, which is like this connection with people and how to always relate with social, political context about how to tell stories.
In terms of projects that you can talk about, can you give us some examples of some work that you've done in healthcare in terms of film, in terms of documentaries?
Our latest work is Impossible Journey that you have mentioned before, which is about the American healthcare system and how racism is like um, impacting, Black women's lives during pregnancy.
Maybe let's unpack that one a little bit more. So, how did you get connected with that project, and like I guess who was involved?
We really like the story, talk about a really serious issue, but at the same time talking about it in a metaphorical way, because we're talking about the story of two storks. So we have this maternal world of storks, so magical, how we can like show it with this magical way, but at the same time, like bringing the reality and bringing like people to connect to it, of course. And then we decided to connect with reality, but at the same time, I think the biggest connection in this project was, okay, the message is super important, but at the same time, the process of doing it, it's even more important. So we decided to bring like lots of women, lots of Black women, lots of mothers, and to of it, think about the project with us, to produce it together. Because despite I'm being a woman, I've never been a mother, so I'm a white person, and I didn't have this experience. So I think bring together lots of women to make this whole team, to make it happen, to make it feel real, and to make people participate. It was really, really meaningful for us and for everybody who was in the team. More than a year producing it. Today, when the team says, I'm really proud of being part of it. So for us was really meaningful to have all these women thinking and making and being part of it and being proud of it. We decided to really connect this metaphorical language and this metaphorical story with a real life story. And then we went to New York to have this conversation and to make these interviews with people who actually were victims of the system and the racial thing and everything we were talking about.
The C-section is where they lock our partners, our wives at. A place of anxiety where you wait and wait and wait and wait for someone to be there. But that someone never comes. No one ever cares. An unprivileged area to punish us for a capital sin, being born with the black color of our skin. With the sharp blade of indifference, they killed my son's mom. He was not only her son, though she taught me everything I know. My queen, my calm, my soul. C-section, they say. But not even an A plus could capture the light she brought our way. Don't you dare say her name was. Her name is Amber Rose Isaac, and I swear she's with us right now, and she's gonna be with us forever.
Women are dying, they're not being listened to. The medical system is failing us, failing Black and Brown and Indigenous people. And if we don't scream at the top of our lungs this problem until white people decide to care about it, then how will it change?
The manner in which the animation was done. So there was a specific technique that was used. Can you talk a little bit about that?
We wanted to bring a magical world and at the same time destroy it because as a women, I think we idealize so much about motherhood, you know, and everybody think that motherhood it's like super cool and a perfect world, but it's not, and it's not for everyone. It can be beautiful, but it's super unequal. How we could bring this layer of reality and this destruction of idealization of motherhood, like literally, visually, everything starts so beautiful, even their shape, it's perfect. And when the protagonists start to, live and get in touch with this reality, this layer of reality starts to disconstruct, So it's a metaphorical, and I think the concept is to destroy everything because nothing is as beautiful as it looks at first. So that's why our thinking of bring this painting, layer of painting. So we did the animation, we animated digitally, and then we printed out frame by frame, and then we painted frame by frame, and we started as long as the protagonist starts to suffer, the lines and everything is more chaos and more dangerous, and the lines and the visuals starts to destroy as well.
Yeah.
And that's what our our goal was to find a place where the protagonist is super disconstructed and super chaotic, and the other was like just like she was before, from the beginning till the end, she is the same. It doesn't mean, of course, white women are not suffering during their motherhood process as well. It's not the point. But the point was to find these different risks that women are into it.
How was the film received? Like, what came out of it? Do you feel like from the perspective of the healthcare system, or what did you feel like were wins outside of the win of obviously doing it and the learnings that came from that?
We always put these films and these works, it always end up in, winning some prizes and all this kind of stuff that make it like it's super cool, of course. But for me, the coolest thing is when you put it in the world and common people start to watch it
Yeah.
and to give you feedback.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing was where women came to me and said, okay, I felt represented here. I felt like my story was told here as well. When we went to New York and we met people, because Impossible Journey, it's worth to tell it. It has like, it's a film that is a part of a campaign, a bigger campaign, because in US they made like a Omnibus Act, which was like a protest to raise attention to the politics, to vote.
For like a bill, for a bill to be
Yeah, exactly, for a
yeah.
bill to be passed. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like part of this campaign. It's a bigger thing where you see this film was distributed to the lawmakers and the politicians, and it was a part of a bigger campaign. So that's why I'm recommending you to see to check it out in the website,
Mhm.
which is impossiblejourney.org, where you can understand that the project is connected with other NGOs related to this healthcare motherhood world. And also you can check it out with more interviews of real stories outside the film. But it's really nice to check it out and to understand that it's part of something bigger. That's the point.
Yeah.
Connect with people who are not in of my area, like common people. Like, it's super cool to be part of this other scenario. To have your film being part of other connections, being part of other stuff.
I'm curious to get your thoughts. Obviously, generative AI is a very hot topic right now. What are your thoughts about that, and about how it's going to impact the way filmmaking and art is used to be able to convey healthcare messages?
Yeah, that's the point. AI, it's a thing that I think, of course, I see AI as a tool to, you know, make our life better in many ways.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you the speech that I hate AI because it's stealing jobs. And so, of course, it's a reality. It's happening when you talk about visual arts, illustration, lots of things that are already happening and going. But at the same time, I still want to believe and I still want to think that AI will help us as a tool, not to replace us. If you take the example of digital cameras, when they appeared in the world,
Yeah.
the film was like everybody thought the film was dead.
Yeah.
And everybody started to make
Yeah.
digital images.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was this, wow, digital images, blah, blah, blah. But today, 2024, here we are like filming
Mm.
analog again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I believe it's a cycle, because I want to believe, again, I want to believe that the handcraft,
Yeah.
the human part of, making with your own hands, it will never be replaced by AI. And also talking about creativity and everything. So I truly believe that the power of craft, of analog things. I am a person super connected with collage, painting, embroidery. I'm the one who loves a handcraft stuff.
Mhm.
So it's a thing that we always want to experiment in our work as well. That's why our work in general always try to bring something analog, because it gives you a layer of reality again, This dimension, these two dimensions that I mentioned, the visual, which I think the analog will always be a value, and what we feel, I don't think the AI will be able to replace the connection and the results that we have when you truly connect to someone. And I don't think the AI will be able to make it so real as we humans are able to do.
If something is created by humans, like, so let's say the craft of somebody making a film, creating a certain image, a painting, do you feel like its ability to convey a message, and let's say in this specific, in this context, a message pertaining to the human experience and a message pertaining to healthcare, do you think it's different if that thing was made through human hands and through human effort as opposed to through a prompt uh, on a computer? Do you think even if the output is very, very similar, if not almost indistinguishable, do you feel that it makes a difference in how in its ability to be functional as a way of communicating a message?
Yes. I think there is a place where we can totally use AI and it will be like super replaceable.
Yeah.
But I think in a point of really conveying and communicating, there'll be always a human mind decided. Even if we use AI, there's no problem.
Yeah. I mean,
But
if the end output is the same, is it different from the experience of the viewing human being, knowing that something was hand drawn by a number of artists over 1 year to make an animated video versus something that was like a 5 to 10 minute prompt on ChatGPT, right? And I personally do think there's obviously a difference. The question is, how do we communicate that difference?
uh-huh.
How does the end user know that when they say, "Oh yeah, like we spent a year drawing this by hand," versus I did this morning, like while I was taking a shower,
Uh-huh.
like how do we
Yeah, I got your point.
say that? And what do you think is going to be a way in which we protect the ability to be able to convey that craft was used?
Everyone can produce it by their phone, right away. Doesn't matter. And today in the photography artistic world, I think it's much more about who made this image
Hmm.
and who are you? What's your context?
Yep.
I think this is more important right now than the proper photography that was made, the context. And I think when we talk about video and all this artistic production, maybe the final material won't be the most important thing, and people will be interested more in who made it and how was the process and why you did it. Is this important? If it's so affordable and easy to make an image or animation or a film, is that important? Or
Yeah.
what's important? Who made it?
Who made it?
And I think this will be the central point of discussion, and how to make value of it.
When we talk about similar things that have happened in history where there was a huge technological leap and it made an impact on society, one of the things people often think of is like, the printing press, our first ability to get words on paper and to be able to distribute that with scale. And I forgot where I was reading this, but I came across the comparison recently to people saying, okay, well, the printing press was there, and then it sparked an age of enlightenment and knowledge translation across the world. But the reality was it was different. The first little while, when the printing press was uh, first established, majority of the content being created was actually bad. It was like stories about witch hunting or just like preying on people's emotions, or just kind of like garbage material, not material that was actually being helpful or creating enlightenment in society. And the idea was kind of comparing that to to generative AI and then kind of where we are right now, where we're seeing this emergence of a new tool, but we're also kind of seeing how it can be used to spread like useless information that preys on our emotions. And probably we're going to see more of that first before we see it being used to be able to convey meaningful messages that actually advance, let's say, healthcare or advance people's understanding of how complicated the experience of healthcare is and all the social factors that kind of come into it. What are your thoughts about that?
It's a process, you know. We are like navigating in this ocean of knowing, I think, when we talk about AI. I'm always thinking about it in my field, you know, in my talking about my work. But when you bring it to the healthcare, I see that we are in a place where the AI is much useful for the humanity, you know. I'm always reading things where AI is helping some studies and some things related to, you know, find new vaccines, solutions for rare diseases, this kind of stuff, you know.
Hmm. It's early for sure, and I think in certain areas it's creating more of a more transformation. And in other areas, I think there's still probably hype is mixed into a lot of it. You know, one of the things that strikes me as really interesting about generative AI is this ability to be able to create personalized content on demand. How somebody sees something is much more specific to what they want to see or what works for them. And kind of in line with what you were saying, which is that the end result won't matter so much. It's more about the context and the message. If you could try to convey a specific message, but then have the end experience of every person seeing it be personalized to their tastes or personalized to how they want to consume that, how would you use that as as a filmmaker?
So for me, when I produce something, I'm not talking just about the other. I'm talking about myself as well. And how me as an artist, as a human being, want to do something a bit different from the others, you know, not be part of this common place where everybody do the same thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when we talk about healthcare, because here we are talking about healthcare and art,
Yeah.
you know, they're two separated things. But when we go to the healthcare information, that's another point, I think. Because when we need to convey something personalized, I think AI will be like truly perfect, you know. For example, you have a patient with diabetes. I can program AI to produce a content for this person to, you know, have all the information that person needs. But when we when we're talking about bring art together, it's not so personalized to this point because it has to make it's like an exchange, you know,
Yeah.
of both sides, artists and the audience.
You know, when I think about possible journey and I try to imagine, possible journey in 10 years from now, assuming that in 10 years from now you want to use generative AI to develop it, of course, as you said, we'll probably still have people using different media to be able to create art, even though generative AI is there. But I can imagine, as a thought experiment where, you have the core message as an artist, as a group that you put there, and the emotional roller coaster that you want people to go on, that's kind of being crafted by the filmmaker as a storyteller, right? But then the end user, let's say it's a man, in their 50s. In order for him to connect the story, there needs to be a personal tie into something that he's experienced in his own life, and there's knowledge about that, and that kind of gets woven into that in order to make the story become real to that person, right?
Mhm.
Versus somebody who's, let's say, very directly impacted by that story, right? And you can almost imagine there being like tentacles coming out from like the story that draw on personal characteristics of those people and pull them in. Do you imagine something like that happening? Do you imagine like new roles that filmmakers and creators are playing in how they think about the arc of their content?
I believe it's always going to be human because AI doesn't generate anything that you don't teach them to do. The way of creating things in the future will be much more mixed with AI. And I'm now talking about everything you said before about these connections and this kind of other form of impacting people. And we're gonna understand how to do it in a better way and always trying to bring ourselves in, bring something personal, bring something that put inside your life experience on this earth, you know. I think everything will be mixed, and we as a humans will always try to put ourselves in, you know, to make it real, to make it emotional, to make it worth, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I personally think that, there's going to be a tremendous role for people who have a creative mind, and who want to be able to do positive things or to be able to create influence because as we already know, you get what you put in. And when you have a unique perspective and when you have a certain way of thinking, it influences the outcome. And that's obviously true even right now with respect to ChatGPT. If you use it or I use it or somebody else uses it, we'll have three very different outputs. The collaboration between the creative mind, and this entirely new tool set, I think creates this world of possibilities. I'd like to think that it almost turbocharges the capability of what a person can accomplish. It maybe creates new ways of thinking and as a result, new roles for people to be able to participate in that process. What makes you optimistic about healthcare, and the human experience in the future? Like what could something positive that translates from all this look like?
The final point is always about human interactions. That's why I truly believe that as a human being, I don't think technology will take. I don't think we're gonna become like slaves of AI or this kind of stuffs because at the end of the day, we are humans talking to humans, taking care of humans, selling things to humans, making things to other humans, you know. There's nothing to replace this human experience. Every day, something really, really nice is coming out made by AI, and I'm always freaking out about it, you know. What am I going to do with my life? You know, it's something really stressful. And, you know, we are always talking about it and thinking about it and fearing it. But and we have also this anxiety to because we don't know what's going to happen. And that's why I'm always trying to put myself in a place of peace, you know, and optimistic place where we are human beings and we always will be human beings, you know. It's all about it at the end. The core thing, you know, heart, mind, hands.
Yeah.
I'm always putting me together in this physical human experience, you know.
I think it's so important actually, particularly for people in the creative industry, such as yourself, where you have this talent, but you also have the desire to use it to try to further messages pertaining to health and the advancement of society. I think it's that much more important for voices such as yours, to be involved in these conversations and involved in how we can use these tools in a positive way. Because I think otherwise everything kind of ends up going into into using these things for commercialization purposes, which is fine. It's an important piece, but you also want to be balancing that with the message for the intent of actually helping eradicate some of the challenges that we have today, not purely capitalizing on them, right?
Yeah, it's much easier when we talk about this capitalistic stuff and commercial and so it's super easy to, you know, you don't need to problematize everything.
Yeah.
But when we think about society, politics, make things better, makes a better world. Things start to, the discussion goes to another path, and where we see that we need to talk about ethics. We need to talk about how we do it properly. It's not just generate things to sell products and the world will be better. No. Now we need to understand how we use it properly and how we can make this to like work for us
Exactly.
as a society and not work against us.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important point, make the AI work for us and not against us.
What's coming next, and what can we expect to see from you?
We're working on the screenwrite right now for another animation, but at the same time, I can't talk too much about it because it's this process of realize what's the material is. But at the same time, we're always talking about another projects with like commercial projects, of course, because we need to live, make some money and this kind of stuff. We are involved in many things at the same time. I have my book, my idea book,
Yeah.
ideas where we put down everything there, and alongside life and between projects, we start to write it down to put it in the real world. You can wait something related to uh, mental health. That's something we are working on.
Awesome. And if listeners, viewers want to find out more about your work, what's the best place they can go to see the stuff that you've been working on, the stuff you built, and the stuff that's coming?
The Youth Company website, and we have our profile on Vimeo, and we have our profile on Instagram, Yuca Duo. So it's super easy. If you Google it, you'll find. And that's it. Yeah.
I wish you all the best in your projects. Thank you for coming onto the show.
Thanks for having me. I mean, it was a really, really nice conversation, and it's my first podcast appearance ever. So thank you so much for having me, for the invitation.
It's been a pleasure.